Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper 18th May 2017. The first article, A Great Wall of Paranoia. We will discuss this article in three parts. The first is, what is the status of India with regard to Belt and Road Initiative? Why it did not participate in Belt and Road Forum? And second is, what are the two contending viewpoints? The third is how the major powers are managing their relations with China. And added to that, how South Asia is managing between India and China and how India has to come close to South Asian countries. And finally, what is the way forward for India? So these are the things let's verify in this article. You know that in spite of Chinese invitation, India did not participate in Belt and Road Forum. The stated reasons of India are these. One is, there are core concerns of sovereignty and territorial integrity for India as China-Pakistan economic corridor is passing through Gilgit-Baltistan region on which India has territorial claims. And the second thing is, it is a manifestation of neo-colonialism of China and it can push the communities into indebtedness. And finally, it has many geopolitical alignments rather than geo-economic reasons. These are the three stated reasons for India. So in this context, two contending viewpoints are this. One is, India has to develop its own connectivity plan. India has to establish its own industrial base. Then it shall start engaging with China on equal terms. And second is, only if India starts integrating with Chinese One Belt One Road initiative, then only India's developmental prospects can be brightened. So it is like, which is before? What has to come first? Is it egg or chicken? So first is, you develop your capabilities. It's a skeptical view. And after that, after developing the capabilities, then engage. The second dimension is this. You first engage and you get the benefit, reap that particular benefit. So in this context, the first is skeptical view. And the second view believes that the world is essentially interdependent and one part of the nation has to gain from the other part of the world. And second is how great powers are managing this. You know that China-Russia has become very close in spite of their serious differences. And China-US also have come very close. They engage on the terms where they have interdependencies and they try to differ on the areas where they have divergence. Let us take China and Russia relations. And Russia is an important component of One Belt One Road or Belt and Road Initiative because of its geography. And almost three corridors of the total stated six are going one way or the other way through Russia or sphere of influence of Russia. Because of its geographical mass, Russia cannot be ignored by China. Moreover that, Russia is also developing its own economic plan that is called Eurasian Economic Union to integrate economically its sphere of influence. And then coming to China and United States of America, US companies wants to take their share in the projects that are going to come up under Belt and Road Initiative. That is the reason for the bonhomie between President Trump and Xi Jinping. So, India also can take up such an approach. Coming to South Asia, all the countries other than Bhutan, they have participated in Belt and Road Forum. And these countries are eager to engage with China. The reason being, they need our critical capital for developing the infrastructure. So understand carefully, any prime minister or president can stay in power till they can provide for the public goods, essential goods and services. If they fail to do that, obviously they lose power. So the argument of neo-colonialism which India is making may not be apt in these circumstances. If you see Colombo port or mid-zone port in Myanmar, so all these, the countries are making their independent decisions based on their sovereignty claims. So Myanmar is trying to move away from mid-zone port and Colombo port has become politically controversial. And even China-Pakistan economic corridor is becoming politically controversial in the case of Pakistan. So in a situation like this, in the existing circumstances, China overriding the sovereignty concerns through its capital investments may not be possible. Second thing is, if hegemony of a country has to come, it cannot just come from capital investments or materialistic integration. It has to come from ideological domination. Till now, Chinese engagement with the world is mostly through materialism or through trade and capital movements. So the ideological domination of China, which has happened during USSR era, is not being possible now. So in this context, India's concerns that it is a neo-colonialism are misplaced. That is what this article talks about. So in this case, India also has to develop a big power attitude and shall learn the statecraft to engage and to disengage. And then the long journey of forgotten people. This is related to Malayaha Tamils. These Malayaha Tamils, they just migrated to Sri Lanka to work in tea gardens 200 years back. So these are not the same as the Tamilians who are living in northern and eastern provinces. These people are mostly from Dalit background, and these are kind of indentured labor in tea gardens. Now, if you take the various statistical information, these people do not possess any land ownership or home. They don't have a house which is built for them, and the developmental indices of health and education are poor among these people. So in this context, Prime Minister Modi has addressed these people last week when he visited Sri Lanka. So it gives you a strong indication for the rising political clout of these people. Why is it rising? Now, these people, they formed themselves as Tamil Progressive Alliance as part of TPA, and they also have got the cabinet berths, and there is a demand for their development is increasing. So in this case, the Sri Lanka government has passed or brought in a program, the action plan for development of the plantation community. So it is a reflection of growing political clout of these people. The biggest challenge for this community is having a political identity. To an extent, they got that. And most of the people in this community do not possess citizenship rights. So providing them with the citizenship status is of the need of the hour. India just giving certain benefits like building a hospital or building certain housing or dwelling units will not much help. So as an external agent, India's participation will always be limited. So in this case, making Sri Lanka to listen to their demands is the way forward for India. High stakes battle. It is about ongoing Iran elections. Yesterday we have seen there are two parties to Iran election. One is reformist and liberal Hassan Rouhani, who is the president now, and the other one is Mr. Raisi. This person has got the backing of the establishment. Now, if you take Iran's structure, Iran is a theocracy. It is ruled in the name of God. So that's why the supreme leader, he has all powers. So Mr. Khamenei, Ayatollah Khamenei, he has got all the powers. So in this context, so the state power is coming from the supreme leader, but the legitimacy to govern is coming from the people through election. That is the complex relationship. So now Hassan Rouhani is stating that Iran need to be integrated well with the global economy. And on the other hand, conservative says that it is not working for Iran. So there is another actor over here, that is Mr. Trump, USA. USA, by maintaining a hardline posture against Iran, it is playing into the hands of the hardliners. So in this means, in spite of opening up of Iran economy after Iran nuclear deal, there is no much flow of investments into Iran because of the rhetoric of Trump. So unless Iran is being better positioned economically, the voice of the reformists will not be heard further. So in this case, the global powers and global community, if it has to strengthen the hands of the reformers and liberals, there has to be a softening of the hard rhetoric has to happen. And that is what has been stated here. Next is the other debt issue. Now, N.K. Singh committee has been appointed on revision of FRPM Act. In this case, it has clearly stated the GDP debt to GDP ratio shall not cross 60%. Out of this, 20% has to be for the states. Now, fiscal discipline of the states is worrisome, and the fiscal deficit of the states together it is around 3%. Here, understand carefully. The state's fiscal deficit is increasing because of one of the scheme that is called VUDAI, Ujjwal Discom Assurance Yojana. So, with regard to VUDAI, the debt which is there on the heads of the discom companies, that is distribution companies in electricity, will be shifted to the state government. As of now, it will not be counted as part of the FRBM, but it obviously comes into the calculation of debt to GDP ratio. And second, there are many off-budget liabilities for the state government. What do we mean by these off-budget liabilities? Many of the public sector companies of the state governments are borrowing which are not being counted into the budget liabilities of the state government. So in this context, after 14 Finance Commission recommendations, the center to state transfers have increased by 10% to 42%. But in reality, it is only 7% around an improvement has happened, because the center is raising or imposing cess and surcharges rather than raising the taxes. It means that the cess and surcharges are not being shared with the states. As cess surcharges are not being shared, there is no rise in states' component of income. So that's why there is no real transfers which are been happening. And another thing is, the center spending on the state sponsor, that is central sponsored schemes, also has come down. So ultimately, the state's income, there is no much difference over here. So this is what is this article's concern is. To the open ed, Article 142 and the need for judicial restraint. So Article 142 says that the Supreme Court can pass any decree or order to achieve complete justice. So now the question is this in accordance with the separation of powers, which is the basic tenet of the Constitution? Can Supreme Court override a law which is already existing or which is already made by Parliament to do a complete justice? Or this Article 142 has to supplant the parliamentary powers, or it has to supplement the parliamentary laws? These are the questions before us. So Article 142 did a great justice. If you talk about Taj Mahal issue, and where the Madurai plants or Madurai refining plants have been closed, or it is providing for justice to Union Carbide case, or providing for better facilities, or releasing the under trials, all these places Article 142 played a remarkable role. Now in this context, in the Union Carbide case, the Supreme Court has did this complete justice irrespective or overriding the existing legal provisions. Now, it has been argued that Supreme Court overriding the existing provisions, or Supreme Court not taking into consideration the concerns of the people who are losing the jobs because of its decisions, is leading to a kind of judicial overreach. The author examines Babri Masjid demolition case and also banning of alcohol sales on national highways as an example. So with regard to alcohol sales banning, it led to the closure of restaurants across the national highways. So in this context, the very right to livelihood is taken away from these people. So in this context, what he recommends is, any decisions under Article 142, it has to be subjected to wider jurisdiction. It means a larger bench has to take up these cases, and also Government of India has to submit an impact document once the judgment is been given, so that the Supreme Court can have an insight into it. Getting numbers right. In the last class, we have seen IIP and its changes. Now, if you carefully observe, the IIP has got some improvements. What are they? Base year is changed, and the basket of goods gets automatically updated, and basket of goods are also revised now. Similarly, wholesale price index also got some changes. The basket of goods are revised, and then the base year is changed to 2011-12, and food particles and primary products have got a greater emphasis over manufacturing products, and food related basket consisting of primary products and manufactured products. They are brought into one. And then the indirect taxes which are part of calculation of wholesale price index before, these are being removed now. So these are the three changes which are being brought in wholesale price index, so that WPI can be correlated well with consumer price index. Now let's get into the news page. You know that India has mastered the building of pressurized heavy water reactors. After civil nuclear agreements, India is supposed to buy nuclear reactors from Westinghouse of USA and from the Areva of France. But nuclear talks are not moving forward due to cost in Areva and due to bankruptcy filed by Westinghouse in the United States of America. So in this context, India is going forward with its own 10 nuclear reactors. If triple talaq is sin, why retain it? The Supreme Court, under Article 25, freedom of religion, only the core principles of the RTI the core principles of religion that are being considered as part of religious freedom. So in this context, if triple talaq is considered as a sin by a Quran, why it has to consider as an essential religious practice under Article 25? This is the question posed by Supreme Court. Now NTRO is under Intelligence Act. So under Intelligence Act, there are certain protections are given to the organizations. The National Technical Research Organization has come after Kargil War, and it was given a protection under Intelligence Act now along with the Intelligence Bureau and Research and Analysis Wing. Now let's go to news page. Israel-Palestine and Palestine President Mahmoud Abbas has visited India, and Prime Minister Modi is about to visit to Israel. So we have to see what can be the outcomes, because Prime Minister Modi is the first Indian Prime Minister visiting the Israel. And Liberal Democrats vow to end the caste bias. So in Britain, there is an argument that can caste among some South Asians be regarded as a racial discrimination. So there is a difference between caste and race, how it has to be answered. So Liberal Democrats wants to end the caste bias, and you already know that caste discrimination is part of the Equalities Act. It is violation of the Equalities Act 2010 in UK. Now, let's go to the business page. So Air India has got a huge debt burden to the tune of 50,000 crore rupees, and it is also leading to heaping losses. So in this context, government is considering a disinvestment plan, and it is responsibility is given Niti Aayog to make a roadmap for revival of Air India. So these are the articles for discussion today. Thank you very much and all the best.